Hey there. I've got a lot of stuff going on, so please excuse my rude bright light and my dishwasher trying to sanitize some bottles so I can bottle some beer. I have this very interesting ale. It's a Belgian style ale um, using champagne yeast. Adelbert's Brewery Sundowner, handcrafted Belgian style Belgian style bière brut, et brute. So bottled on 8/24/15, served at 45 to 55 degrees, and it does suggest that you keep the bottle upright before serving, which I didn't manage to do last week, but I managed to do this time. So I had pre-poured this. I've actually had a couple of tastings of this, and I shared with a couple of people who were all very surprised at how much it is like a white wine or champagne, like a dry wine, just by the yeast. So, anyway, that's the spoiler if you were wondering. So really, I think it's its own style of beer, although I suppose I haven't actually validated that belief. Let me see here. Because it's kind of a thing now. Beer with champagne yeast. Um, yeah, this might fall into experimental beer. Um, anyway, no, I don't think that it's a thing necessarily. Um, okay. Um, anyway, okay, yeah. So it's kind of a specialty thing, and I've seen it done a couple of times. And I've been meaning. So Maria, I think your last name is Devon. If you watch these videos, you know it wasn't you. Gosh, who was it? Somebody had asked me about what beers have a champagne yeast in them. So there are several on the market. Here's another one. So this is actually brewed out of brewed and bottled in Austin, Texas, and it's 12% alcohol by volume, which is very interesting. I mean, I think wine is usually about 14% or so. It's been a while since I paid a lot of attention to wine, so I don't remember specifically, but, so that higher alcohol content, that really dry kind of crisp finish, that's not beer crisp, but wine, champagne crisp, same idea here. So very interesting. So anyway, aroma. First and foremost, it smells like champagne. Second, you get that nice, deep ale smell. Time to take my medicine. You get this nice, deep ale smell. All that caramelly maltiness. I go back in for another smell, and I get kind of grape juice out of this. Wine. It's got that real dry white nose to it. It almost has like an oaky smell to it, like and I think it might be me transposing my experience of white wine onto this, because I feel like a lot of wines are oak or barrel stayed, and they have that kind of woody, oaky smell to them. And this does as well, but in an interesting way. It also has this like play of light fruitiness, a little bit of spiciness. Very interesting. So color-wise, and the light is in my favor this time. Nice, bright, golden color. And I don't know. Oh yeah, you can totally see. Well, maybe you can see. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of bubbles going on here. So it's definitely bubbly. I poured it a while ago, and it's retained its head. Flavor-wise, the first thing that impacts me is this is a 12% alcohol beer. I probably would have never guessed that. I mean, maybe in the finish, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I get some alcohol or burn out of there. So 8, 9%, I don't know. But 12, holy moly. Anyway. This is such an interesting beer because I feel like it bridges the gap from a white wine, not red, but white wine or champagne drinker into the beer world. And it has all of these light, crisp, kind of sparkling fruit qualities, and then just underneath that is this extra layer of depth and sweetness and complexity. I feel like that's like a deeper level than I get out of a lot of wines. And I feel like a lot of wine flavors are very superficial. They kind of burn off quickly. You don't have a lot of leftover going on in white wines, particularly in the drier wines. And I feel like this beer really rides that edge. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I think it's totally drinkable. I'm not like a super big white wine or champagne fan. So to me, it's a little bit too much on the dry wine side, and it's not my favorite. But I definitely, and unfortunately, everybody that I had try it was like, oh, I don't really drink champagne, yeah. So they weren't terribly impressed either. But I feel like I want to bring a bottle of this like to a brunch where people are drinking mimosas or something like that, something where they're starting. I mean, anyway, something that has a lighter feel to it, and see if I can kind of sneak this in on them. And then that further makes me curious. What happens if you turn this into a mimosa, or you put a scoop of orange sherbet in there? I've seen some beer floats, and I've had a beer float, a Blue Moon float with orange sherbet, and that was actually pretty good. And I feel like this is probably on par with that. So it's probably a really nice, like, champagne brunch beer. And I would also be curious if you're a big champagne drinker and you've tried some of these beers brewed with champagne yeast, what your thoughts were on them. Do you feel like it's like a good segue into beer, or it's totally an imposter and you hate it? Share with me. I would like to hear. Also,